on June 21st, 23, for the Clark County Board of Education special meeting. I'd like to welcome everyone here tonight, and like for everyone to rise for a moment of silence, followed by a pledge of allegiance. I'll pledge. I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
First item is a review of the agenda. Since this is a special meeting, nothing can really be added. Can be removed, but cannot be added.
I make a motion to approve the agenda.
We have a motion by Ms. Hall. Do you have a second?
I'll second.
A second by Mr. Dorsey. All in favor?
Aye.
Passes 4-0. We have no public comments. On to the next items, finance and HR update. Let me get my glasses on. Consider approval of Assistant Director of Logistics and Student Support Services position, Dr. Tammy Parrish.
Good evening. So, new job description here. So, it's not a new position that we're creating. We've consolidated a couple of positions. This is going to be posted as a classified certified position. So, based on the candidate, they could either hold a teaching certification or not hold a teaching certification. So, the director and his committee would decide. So, the job description basically covers tasks that Mr. Snell and I met about that he would like to delegate to this person. So, that's what you'll find within it.
Where will they be housed at?
I'm assuming the transportation department.
Bus garage.
Bush Rush.
Mr. Snell's here too.
Oh.
Bus garage.
Any other comments or questions? Not, do we have a motion?
So moved.
Motion by Mr. Bennett. I'll second. All in favor?
Aye.
Passes 4-0. On next is to consider approval of 03.1236, 03.2236, revised verbiage for emergency and sick leave. This is the second reading. Dr. Tammy Parrish.
Yes, we just wanted to change the verbiage. This is the second reading. Nothing's changed since the first reading.
Any questions, comments? Have a motion?
So moved.
Have a motion by Mr. Dorsey. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Oh, go ahead.
Second by Mr. Bennett. All in favor?
Aye.
Passes 4-0. Next is consider approval of policy revisions 03.1232, 03.2232, adding one sick leave day to each record, revising the verbiage related to using sick leave as emergency leave as stated by KRS section 161.152, the second reading.
Again, yeah, second reading. Nothing's changed since the first reading. Just adding a day and adding the verbiage about the emergency leave at the bottom.
I'll make that motion.
Motion by Mr. Dorsey. All second. All in favor?
Aye.
Passes 4-0. Consider approval of employee handbook, coach's handbook, and substitute teacher's handbook. Dr. Tammy Parrish.
These are just formalities for updating. KSBA's already approved the drafts back, so they're in final copy now, and we just need your approval for all the updates.
I want to say I was happy to see the phone numbers for like the CPS, all those numbers in there. And I told Mr. Howard that I think that really helped solidify the policies that we're going to be looking at later. It's much better to have it in a handbook that the teachers can pull out and look at. So they look good.
Thank
Look
you
good.
so very much.
I make a motion to approve.
Okay. Motion by Ms. Hall.
Second.
Second by Mr. Bennett. All in favor?
Aye.
Passes 4-0. Consider approval of preschool program, consider approval of preschool payment program. Dr. Tammy Parrish.
Thank you. So I've asked Ms. Blanton to join me. So Ms. Blanton is going to be overseeing the program, and she can answer any specific questions you may have. But with the daycare center being delayed a little bit, we were hoping for October, but now it's maybe looking more like January. Ms. Blanton called me and said, well, I have a great idea. I think that we can house the 3, 4, and 5-year-olds at the preschool under a preschool payment program for staff student or for staff children. So basically, she explained to me that we would put this program together by screening staff children. So if they're eligible, staff kids will receive services for free. If they're not eligible to receive related services, that it would be, we're hoping, around a $20 a day. And when preschool ends at 1 o'clock, we would offer extended care until 5 o'clock for staff students. So, any specific questions? I might defer to her, but
So when I reviewed this, it looks like it was going to be pre-tax?
yes,
deducted?
it'll be, yes, pre-tax
Okay.
payroll deducted. And that's part of your approval that we would need
Yeah.
tonight to be able to do that.
And also, the only question that I had was, if we have, will our staff be given first priority? I mean, there's a max, there's going to have to be a max of kids that we can take, right?
So in our survey
How's
so
that
far,
performing? Yeah.
that's what we wanted to make sure because we didn't have really a baseline to go off of. So so far in the survey, we have 12 students, and about half of those, the parent thinks that they'll have some sort of delay. So we're 50-50 right now. She can talk to you about what numbers look like as far as being a cap.
Okay.
I think we have to serve the public first and student needs.
Yes, so we will not be able to turn away any students that may qualify for any type of services such as communication, cognitive, social. We will always have to offer those spots to those students. The ones that we do have a little bit more leeway is our 3-year-olds, the 3-year income eligible students, because there's not really funding for those students. So we do have the room to house, especially 12 to 14 students. We do have the room to do that. And it would actually benefit our program too, because we come to a point to where when you look at classroom ratios and you're looking at disabilities, you can't go above 50%. So this is going to help us level out that, because last year we had 4 classrooms at 50% that I couldn't even place any more students in because it would make us over. So this, I could place these students in those classrooms and continue to fill those classrooms up.
And at this point too, we worked with Mrs. Ellis to see where we would be funding wise and not having to purchase more teachers. Right now, we wouldn't have to, but if we went over cap at the $20 a day, if we had 20 kids enroll, it would be self-sustaining and funding itself.
And what's the attendance now at the preschool?
So when we finished last year, we had 307 students enrolled and our cap was 315, I think is what it was. So, and that's, like, we had a couple of students that moved right at the end. So, you
Yeah.
know, it's kind of like the district. We have them moving in, moving
Right.
out, so.
And the new preschool's 450, if I'm not mistaken, so we got, good, okay. So, question that.
Do we have Head Start still mixed in, so that's a different funding stream for
Yes,
for
that's
that?
a different funding stream. And actually, Head Start gave us 9 extra students so we're now going to house 100 students this year for Head Start. But those are students that are already in our program. It's called like dual funded. So we'll actually get some funding from Head Start and we get funding from the state. But they did give us 9 more of those spots, which brings more revenue into our district.
Yeah, and my only question's been answered because I wanted to be sure that any child who might need that service not be bumped because of a staff member's. But how you explained it makes sense and it actually sounds beneficial. So it's exciting to be able to offer it for them. Will they have to pay on top of the $20 for the daycare?
No.
Okay.
No, that's the $20 would cover the
Cover that.
extended care, yeah.
Okay. That's great. That's a really good deal.
Yeah.
Yes, we tried to be the best in the county.
Yeah.
Best in the state.
That's the school district, so it's best in the state.
Any other questions, comments? If not, I'll make a motion to approve. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Second by Mr. Dorsey, all in favor?
Aye.
Pass 5-0.
Thank you all so
Okay.
much for your time.
Thank you. Next up is acknowledgement of the financial audit, Mr. Baron Snail. Welcome.
How are you? I'm going to kind of go over the highlights of the audit of maintenance and transportation. I'm going to start with maintenance. Lindsay's going to go to page 6. It's kind of where maintenance starts at. There were no glaring issues with the maintenance audit, a couple things he recommended was to track supplies better with the existing software that we had. We use School Dude right now. We've used it for the past several years. He recommended just kind of keeping up with supplies a little bit better than what we were doing. He also recommended a portion of the building and facilities rentals be reimbursed to the maintenance budget and not completely to school activity fund account. I believe we already do this somewhat with GRC, and maintenance already have an agreement where we rent the facilities at GRC. There's a lot of maintenance stuff that has to, we rent the field for a weekend, or we go through a lot of toilet paper, and that comes out of the maintenance budget. So that's already being done. I also recommended a 30-yard compactor dumpster, replace the smaller ones at the elementary schools and RDC to save us money on how many times Rumpke's coming. We have one ordered for RDC currently. We will see how much we save with that before we determine whether we're going to move on to the elementaries or not.
So is it because it's being emptied more often? Is that what he was thinking?
I think the more often it's emptied, the more they have to come, the more it costs. Now, I'm assuming there's an initial increase in cost going from the 6 and 8 yard dumpster to the 30-yard dumpster also. But
Have we checked with any other companies, that CDE, or is Rumpke the only one we've ever?
Rumpke's the only one that I'm aware of. I mean, but we can look at it. We were just trying to get something in place because the summertime is so busy for us with trash, to where we're cleaning out classrooms, where we rack some floors, a lot of things get thrown away. We didn't want to really disrupt it right now, but Mr. Snell and Mr. Watkins could definitely run some numbers.
Were you under contract with them initially right now, though?
I'm not sure, to be honest with you.
This would be something to check into,
Yep.
because they're a local company.
Yep. Just take that note. Did you get that? Check.
got it.
Got it. There you go.
Mr. Flannery also recommended that the maintenance department needs a line item budget for capital repairs. These are the large repairs, HVAC, water heaters, that type of thing. He recommended $100,000 per year be utilized only for those repairs. $200,000 has already been allotted for next year's budget for those type things. That was pretty much it for maintenance. Transportation was a little bit more involved. Bus driver shortage. Bus driver overtime has been overutilized to make up for a shortage of drivers. The shortage is also causing our mechanics, our garage supervisor, our dispatcher to drive routes when they're, we pay our mechanics to fix buses, not drive them. They're having to drive during the day, which is causing us to have to pay them overtime as well. We've got 54 drivers currently with 52 routes. We average 4 drivers per day that are absent. So we're trying to cover, on average, 2 routes a day with mechanics, dispatcher, and, just whoever we can find.
CDL trainer.
Yes. Last year, spent over $200,000. I think it's roughly right around $206,000 on driver overtime alone. Mechanics overtime was right around $51,000. A lot of the driver overtime is after school trips. The recommendations from Mr. Flannery was hire an additional 10 drivers to reduce our overtime, possibly increase the number of routes that we're doing, raise the driver starting wage from $17.15 to $19. Current drivers making 18 or less, raise their pay to 19. Current drivers making $18, raise their pay by $1 an hour. If you look at the first 5 years of the pay scale, if you don't raise them $1, you're going to have the first several years making the same amount of money. He also recommended raise the mechanic's wage by $1 to remain competitive. The garage supervisor's wage by $2. Recommended to eliminate the transportation, retention, recruiting, and referral plan. Basically did not find any evidence that it worked. He did recommend to keep the $500 re-signing for full-time employee who returns and completes 60 days. He looked at our Samsara program, which last year was a pilot year for the Samsara program. Samsara looks at all the telemetrics of the bus. We can run it on a phone, you can run it on a computer. You can get in there and see real-time data as that speeding, hard braking, hard turns, engine speed, engine, temperature, stuff like that. He looked at from September to May, where our entire fleet, our buses are idling 27% of the time. If we can cut our idling down by 50%, that would result in roughly $36,000 worth of savings.
Is that achievable?
I think so. I mean, I looked at just one from May, and we had a bus in May that traveled to Georgetown and was idling for 4 hours roughly. I mean, there's no reason to have a bus idling for 4 hours in May. But I can see if you're the dead of winter, you're in January, February,
There's absolutely some fat there that can be cut. Yeah, I was just wondering.
Yeah, I think so. I think we've got to use the program. I've already been in the program. I mean, it can tell you some good stuff. I mean, it tells you exactly when they're stopping, how fast they're going, where, I mean, you got a camera goes out front, you got a camera that looks at the driver. Yeah. But I think if we, run some reports and monitor it regularly, I think we can cut out the idle time especially.
Now,
And
is that
that's-
the program that parents can access to see where the buses are, or is that a different program?
That's a different program, I believe.
Okay,
Yeah.
We use something similar.
Overall, our fleet of buses is very old. We got 40% are completely depreciated out, which means they're 10 years older or older. 60% are older than 8 years. We have ordered 5 buses. We got 2 84-passenger buses that will come in July. I believe the end of July. And we've got 3 more coming that will be your late fall. One of those will be a special needs buses, and 2 of the other ones are just regular 74-passenger buses. He recommended develop a 5-year plan to replenish the fleet. It's kind of already started. We'll follow up kind of in October with the 5-year plan as to how we can accomplish to replenish the fleet to where we don't have 60% of our buses that are 8 years or older. So if we order in October, they'll be here in July. They'll be ready for start of school.
This line item is an acknowledgement of the audit, so there's no vote necessary. But is there any additional comments or questions from Mr. Snow?
I looked at the different wages and how the effects will be to move them up to $19 an hour, and then compared to what the overtime versus what they would make if they were making that base $19. And it looked like that actually it was going to save us quite a bit of money for them not to have that overtime.
It's about a wash if we hire the 10 drivers, which I think is questionable at $19 an hour. I don't know that it's possible that we're going to get 10 drivers. We've got 7 jobs posted now, and not a whole lot of applicants. We do have some, but it's not a lot. I would recommend $20 an hour and raise the pay scale 20 cents a year.
So-
I think $20 an hour gets us much more bang for our buck. I think we'll come a lot closer to getting those 10 drivers.
So this could be something we discuss later, but this was brought up in our meeting where we, as a district, guarantee 6 hours.
Yes.
Okay, and our other districts around guarantee 4. Some don't guarantee any, you punch a clock. Is that correct?
Yeah.
And they start at a higher pay rate per hour, okay? So when you advertise, you're putting in your hourly rate. Our rate looks a little lower than maybe some of our competitive counties out there because we're guaranteeing 6 hours. If we guaranteed 4 hours and advertised it, I don't know what the numbers would be, like $22, then that might get us more bus drivers.
Yeah.
So I know that's something that we might want to look at to change. I don't know, because I know when someone's just looking and they're seeing a pay rate per hour, they're not really looking, in the details. Like, well, I'm guaranteed 6 here, but I'm only guaranteed 4 over here.
Yeah.
I think the other thing too is we do have some bus drivers who have been here for several years, and they are obviously at the higher end. And I want to be sure that when we're looking at these rates, that they are fairly compensated, because if they've put in years and years, I want to make sure that it doesn't look like someone who's brand new comes in and gets almost the same amount as they do. Because we do have longevity, and we want to make sure we do that for those employees.
I think it's important for us to keep the drivers that we have.
Yeah, I think we're saying
That
the
we
same
want to
thing.
retain as many of them as we can.
Right.
Pay is just one of those things.
I just know that I've been in human resource, I'm in supervision and all that. And when you start looking at numbers, that's the first thing they look at. And that's what me and Mr. Howard talked about earlier today. So, but I think that the plan in what this gentleman gave us, it was very insightful, things that maybe we didn't realize. And it's good to have the information to make good decisions moving forward.
So is the next line item, since we've acknowledged the financial audit, is consider approval of the bus driver raise and approval of additional bus driver positions. What specific is the ask? What specific is, what's the specific ask?
I would ask for $20 an hour starting pay with a 20-cent raise for every year of experience. That would put the top end of our pay scale at $25.40 for our drivers that have 27 years and up.
What was it, I'm sorry, the top end is what?
$25.40. Right now, it's at $22.44 currently.
So 2244 is the top, is that what you're saying?
Currently, yes. If we start them at 20 and go up 20 cents a year, it tops out at $25.40 at 27 years and up.
Have you worked with Ms. Ellis on these numbers?
No.
And
Yeah.
I met with Ms. Ellis today, and she says, especially with the savings that we're gonna find and get with reducing overtime, reduced idling time, there's a lot of things, again, transparency, that we're tightening down. We're I don't mean to offend anyone, but, we're bleeding out money in the transportation department right now, and this is a roadmap for us to do things for drivers, for our staff, and not spend any more money. Worst case, it's a wash, and we're spending the same amount of money, but we're hiring bus drivers, we're paying them what they deserve, which is a gigantic improvement on where we are now. So that would be my recommendation to support Mr. Stanley, the staff.
And 10 additional bus drivers is the request as well?
What's that?
The 10 additional bus drivers as well?
Yes.
Okay. So it's $20 starting pay with 20 cents for each year of service, correct?
Where did the 20 cents come from? Like why 20?
That's roughly what we have now. That's roughly what it goes by now per year.
But it would reset the salary scale for every year, which means every single person will get a raise. I mean, for our 27 years, they're gonna get a little less than $3 an hour raise. Whereas if you just do $3, or a little less than $3 for, instead of 17, we're going to 20, other folks were just gonna get $1.
That's what I'm wondering, like how many are gonna get caught in between? Like what's the scale? 0 to 5 is gonna be the 20.
Yeah, a dollar.
Well, if you got 5 years, you'll
Yeah,
be paid
extra
$21
dollar.
an hour,
Yeah.
Yeah.
correct?
Every
So-
5 years,
If
you're making
you
$1
got 10
more.
years, you'd be making $22 an hour.
Okay, so every 5 years.
And the way I look at it, if we went by what Mr. Flannery did and kind of went off his model and raised it, everybody making over 19 gets $1 an hour raise. Then you've got the first 10 years of drivers all making $20. John, I think that's probably a bad idea. I would rather go 20-cent raise per year. That way you're getting paid for it.
And instead of starting at 19, you're suggesting starting at 20.
I would suggest
so
starting at
you-
20.
You get a bigger bump
Yes.
to recruit people.
No, I agree with that. I just didn't know if 20 cents
Sure.
was enough.
Gotcha.
We could go 30.
I was thinking 30.
I could go 40.
This is first board meeting.
Let's ask this, what is our
75.
average tenure?
It's not an option. Good
Do you
grief.
know what the average tenure of our bus drivers are? I mean,
You say the average age?
average tenure
How
of
long
work.
they've been-
How long
I don't know right now.
10 years.
10 years?
Yeah.
So they get a pretty good raise. I mean, it'd
Yeah, we
be
know.
$22 an hour.
Yeah.
And,
But we gotta do what we can to retain them, I
Yeah.
think.
you know, looking, it looks like a lot of them, it's gonna benefit everybody. A lot of people aren't in near $20, and so I think though, as long, you know, make sure we take care of the ones that have been here longer with what you're just suggesting, then the majority of them, it's gonna be a really big bump for them. You know, just look, I have the like layout here. I had to print it off. I couldn't hardly look on my computer at it. So, because here's the current.
These are the ones that I'm,
Those are the
Right.
ones those are the ones that I've been trying to articulate, and I don't think I'm articulating it very well. So,
how many years do they have?
I would say we don't really have how many years they've been here, but I know that that particular person's been here many years, just because I know them.
Yeah. I say we do 30,
I agree.
Dustin.
We can afford it. We just, Mr. Snell and his crew will be responsible to make sure we take care of the roadmap given to us by Mr. Flannery to cover the cost.
I mean, because I think you're gonna have a significant savings by cutting out overtime.
We could save close to $250,000. I'll throw out a number.
I don't think
We
the
run it the
complete
right way.
elimination of overtime is probably feasible
Yeah.
in year one.
I think we have Snell that's gonna be on top of
I think
things.
there's some other things we can do to eliminate some overtime, but I don't know that this is probably the right time
You're
to.
gonna be watching, right?
I will be paying attention, yes.
I know you will.
Yeah.
I have faith in you.
That's
Would
a
you like to
big
make that motion, or do you have any more questions?
Oh, no, I was just gonna say, it's such a big thing that you have to bring to your first board meeting, but I think you've done a good job.
Glad to do it.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, I make a motion to approve the bus driver raise to $20 an hour at a minimum for year one. Is that correct?
That'd be year zero. No,
Year zero?
Yeah.
Okay. And then an additional 30 cents for each additional year
Service.
of service.
Service.
Okay, we got a motion on the table by Ms. Richard, will you have a second?
Second.
Second by.
Now, is
Mr.
that to include hiring then 10 extra drivers also?
That,
Oh,
you
and,
want to amend that?
yeah, I'll
to hire
amend
the
that
10?
to include hiring 10 additional drivers as well.
Okay. So we got the motion that includes the
Second.
10.
Does
Second
the
by Mr. Bennett.
cap need to be raised above 25.40 if you go to the 30 cents?
Yes.
Yeah, but I didn't include
We didn't include any
I
cap.
didn't include a cap in it
Okay.
because of that.
Yeah. Okay. Okay, we got a motion and a second, all in favor? Passes 5-0.
Keep people happy.
I didn't say aye, but I should have
Oh,
said
I'm
aye.
sorry.
But I do approve. I
Okay.
just,
Who seconded that?
Huh?
Bill,
Billy, Mr. Bennett. So you, Ms. Hall, you fine with that?
I'm good with it,
Okay,
yes.
all right.
I just didn't say it, and I just wanted to make sure you knew. It just didn't come out.
Okay. Internal board business is next item. Consider approval of second reading KSBA policy and procedure updates. Mr. Howard.
So we reviewed all of the policy updates. We also took feedback. Ms. McCoy and I have been working on, we sent back everything you guys had requested. So you could review. I feel like we meet the letter of the laws that's written. Again, if things change, then we'll adjust. But our task was to get something in place by June 30th, and this gets us there. So any questions? I know we've also been working with the Equity Coalition on educating, supporting our staff on how to meet kids' needs moving back into school. And that's not necessarily directly related to this, but we're still dealing with a lot of things with trauma and meet kids' needs. So I do want to give them a shout out on their work with that.
Thank you for your work. It's nice to have them in the community, so. On the part, the human sexuality and the teaching, we did the OR. Which OR did we do?
I thought we did the one with one.
And I can give you all a little bit more insight I have had since then we had our first meeting. if you look at that, let me see, which page is that on?
The reason I ask is there was a school employee that brought up the question yesterday about they didn't know the policy and so forth, and I explained to them that we're working on that.
Sure.
So, yeah.
One reason the policy is somewhat problematic, and it's not because the policy's wrong, it's because the law's wrong. Last year, the legislature changed the law that now the superintendent sets curriculum, not the SBDMs or the principals. So if you read the very top sentence of that policy, it says, if the site-based decision-making council or principal establish curriculum, then this all must happen. So the legislature did something last year, and then they went and did something that kind of contradicts that this year. So it's almost kind of a moot point because superintendent sets curriculum, not the principal or the site-based decision-making council. So, but I still recommend if you want to choose one or two versus them both, it's just clearer going
Right.
forward.
And one is just, nobody below fifth grade,
Gets
right?
any
Fifth grade and below
instruction,
gets
yeah.
any instruction. Whereas the other one is nobody gets any instruction.
Yeah. And it says, you know, the language is instruction or presentation. So that could be, you know, a third-party group that comes into the school, or an extracurricular club, a Gay Straight Alliance, you know, Fellowship for Christian Athletes. That's why I think the two is a little bit maybe too restrictive. So, but obviously that's important
pretty shady,
discretion.
yeah.
Yeah.
But,
Yesterday we had and I forget what it was called. It was about, you know, children in our community, and there is a group that has went into like Phoenix and provided education on human sexuality, which while I think that's a great thing, I just want to make sure that we stay in compliance and how make sure we start monitoring those things in this particular law. So we're within the law. That doesn't mean that this, you know, I think that it's a good thing to teach kids about it.
even notwithstanding that, you know, choice of one or two under that paragraph, it still requires notice to the parents if that's
Right.
going to be taught, an opportunity to opt out. and so
Exactly.
forth.
And that's why I'm bringing it up, because you have outside agencies that are wanting to be helpful, and then it might, you know, if we are not aware of it. And so since we have so many we have a lot of new principals and a lot of new staff, and so that, especially, you know, Phoenix High School, middle school, or, excuse me, junior high.
And that's where Misfit and I are really working on our PD4 principals this summer, not just counselors and teachers, but our building leaders. So when people are asking, you know, we don't, again, I'm going to do the best job I can as far as monitoring, but I'm one person, right? Part
Exactly.
of leadership is expanding our sphere of influence and making sure everyone running those buildings, departments also understand what the law is requiring of us, and parents have to be notified and given alternatives if they so request.
So do you meet with, and I'm sure you do, I guess you'll be meeting with all the leadership across the district, reviewing all these new policies before the school starts?
We have our first cabinet meeting on July the 10th, and
Okay.
from there we'll plan for our first principal meeting mid-July is what we're shooting for. And that way we're not even getting into August in case there's questions, or we do need to bring in some people for training, or set up trainings for staff, students, parents. I think parents need to be informed, and that's something we're working on also. So that outside agencies don't define what Clark County's doing, we're saying exactly what we're doing.
And I think that's important as a parent, you know, of a high schooler, that communication really continue to improve. And, you know, for me, I'm all for whatever, but some parents might want to be even more specific based on their cultural preferences. And so, I'm looking forward to that ongoing continued improvement in communication.
Oh, and working with the site base and
Yes.
Ms. Fitz and I at the high school and looking for a new principal, I made it crystal clear that communication was a priority, and inclusion, and making sure people know what's going on, and we celebrate things going on in the high school. So I don't know if I can make it any more clear to the new principal.
And I trust you on that, so I do.
I mean, there's a lot to review, I mean, for
Yeah.
the new leadership, as they come in, not just new policies, but the complaint resolution process, and all, you know,
Right.
there's those step-by-steps that they have to follow.
In our policies, I can't, I brought the wrong computer in. Do we have like a cultural diversity type policy in our school system? Like cultural inclusion or anything like that?
I don't know if we've got a formal board policy. I know that we've been working with
I haven't seen
HR,
that.
again, the equity group on how we improve that as part of that partnership. Moving forward is coming up with policies and procedures on how to be more inclusive.
Yeah. Definitely think that's something I'd like for us as a board to look and move forward with, to make sure that we have something in place for we have a lot of minority children or children of color, children with disabilities, children, and on and on. So,
No, I do know we are continuing to expand on our Black and Brown Achievers program.
yes.
So we've got meetings set up. We're doing a much better job communicating
Yes,
to make sure that we provide those opportunities for our kids and for our families too.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And I had asked about the abuse and neglect one the last meeting, and I think you all clarified it. And I really, after seeing the handbook, I think I already said this once, but I think it really, it matches itself, and so staff will know what the procedure is, what they need to do in the event of a need to report. So I think it looks good. I looked at it last night, so. I think that was all those were my big ones, so.
Any other comments? Do we have a motion to approve the updates in the policy?
I make a motion to approve.
Okay, we have a motion by Ms. Hall. I'll second. All in favor?
Aye.
Passes 5-0. Do we have a motion to adjourn?
Make a motion to adjourn.
Ms. Ritchie makes motion to adjourn. Do we have a
I'll second.
Second by Mr. Dorsey. All in favor?
Aye.
Passes 5-0. We are adjourned at 7:07 p.m.
So are you